Good morning and welcome into the Tuesday, August 24th edition of Leading Off, presented by Manscaped. I am your host, Brendan Tuma, and it is a Boss Man Day, which means Dan Harris is here. For those of you listening, you obviously know who Dan Harris is. He fills many roles here at FantasyPros. One of them is hosting the show, The Kickoff, which is kind of similar to Leading Off, but it's for NFL. And I was producing last night's episode, and Dan, I couldn't help but notice you made an obscure reference to something called The Matrix. And I just want to know, are you prepared to lose a lot of listeners from not understanding what you were talking about?
I was just hoping that you would quit immediately as the producer upon hearing this obscure reference to this old black and white movie that really, if you don't see The Matrix by the time next baseball season rolls around, you're fired like immediately. So that's part of your job responsibilities now. Go do it. It's making me mad.
I had leading off listeners, two of them at least, in my DMs on Twitter, upset with me that I had never seen the movie. But when did we say it came out again? What was it?
99. What year were you born, Tuma? I tease you a lot. What year were you born?
I was born in 93.
Oh my God, this is grotesque. Okay, so hold on. Let's talk about something. There are things that are acceptable. Okay, I understand that I am actually like a movie person. Fine. I like older movies. I also like things that were before I was born. Your generation does not often do that. That's fine. I got no problem with it. But there are certain movies that for your generation you must see. Okay. The Matrix is like mainstream. It's cool. There's a lot of pop culture references that we use about it now. There is no excuse. I'm not going to go make you watch The Godfather, even though it hurts my soul a little bit. I'm not going to make you watch old school like Casablanca or anything like that. You go watch that Matrix, buddy. Forget about the sequels. Okay. Just watch the first one. It's killing me. Do you understand? JP34, he named my new kitten Neo. You have no idea who Neo is. No idea. Right?
I'm just a company man. I'm looking out for the best interest of the podcast. And I don't know how many people under 25 are understanding your references. So that's an issue for another day. We are here to talk baseball. And I am in a bit of a sour mood. So that's probably why I let off with that. But the Red Sox just took a lot out of me yesterday. And I don't usually get too emotional with, my own team, these days, just as I've gotten older, but I got upset yesterday, and I didn't even care that they ended up winning in the end. We usually do 3 up, 3 down. I only have 1 down today, and it's Matt Barnes. And he wasn't the whole reason, the kind of the fantasy takeaway is Matt Barnes, but the real life takeaway is that the Red Sox really hurt me yesterday, Dan.
You won the game. I don't understand. Like, if the Mets want to blow 7 saves and win a game, I will be a very happy person on the next morning. Are you worried, resident Homer Red Sox fan? Are you worried about Matt Barnes? That's the question. For fantasy, I don't care about your regular team. For fantasy perspective.
So I have the stat here. He has a 7.84 ERA since signing the 2-year extension. You can draw the obvious link. He hasn't been as good since the sticky stuff. A lot of pitchers haven't. That's fine. I don't think they're going to remove him necessarily from the closer role. So in terms of like fantasy, really, at this point, I don't care much about his ERA as long as he's still getting saves. I definitely wouldn't drop him yet. I kind of assume you would suggest the same.
Yeah, I mean, they gave him that day off or a couple days off, which I don't love, right? Like, I love we're just sticking with him, power through. He's our guy. So that does make me a little worried, especially with Ottavino now. I mean, Ottavino still walks, at least a guy every single time he's out there. So not ideal for a closer. I was watching that game because it was in the beginning, the early game. He didn't look bad. He really didn't, unless he was tipping his pitches or something. Like, his stuff was good. I thought a lot of his pitches were solid. They battled, which is weird because it's the Rangers and, they can't hit their way out of a paper bag. So I don't know, man. I wasn't that discouraged, even though it looked pretty bad yesterday, because realistically, I thought his stuff was pretty crisp. So for now, I'm not worried. But yeah, this stinks. He was like the one of, if not the most dominant closer in the game. And now you got to kind of hold your breath every time he's out there.
Yeah, it feels long because it probably hurts worse because it's been at this point like 3-4 years since my last World Series title. So
Very
that's been
tough.
tough to wrap my head around. But luckily for the Red Sox, they did get another good performance out of Nathan Eovaldi, 1 unearned run over 7 innings with a 7-0 K to walk. Since the beginning of 2020, the only starting pitchers with a better K to walk than Nathan Eovaldi are Garrett Cole, Jacob deGrom, and Clayton Kershaw. That's pretty good company. I think Nathan Eovaldi's must start.
Yeah, he is. I don't know how we got to this universe, but I'm not going back. It really is. I mean, he'll have the occasional clunker overall, but he's been really, really good. And we've kind of waited for this for years, since he's been a prospect, because he throws so hard, and it was always just his fastball. It's like it's on the string, right? Like it doesn't move, just super hard, but it's like dead straight. But he's kind of figured it out this entire year. There are zero concerns about him. I imagine that anybody who rostered him just kind of leaves him out there. But yeah, it's a very, very impressive year. Obviously plays for a decent team, Tuma. So it's impressive. Leave him out there. Very encouraged by what I saw this year and his stock going forward in future years.
Nathan Eovaldi leads Fangraphs in WAR among pitchers in the American League. That's pretty amazing. Some other pitchers who did well on Monday night: Alek Manoah, 6 innings of 1-run ball, 5 strikeouts. His ERA is down to 3.18. Pretty good for a rookie. He was up against Lance Lynn, who had 7 innings of 1-run ball with 4 strikeouts. His ERA is down to 2.20. Two good pitchers here. I don't think there's a lot else to say.
Yeah, I mean, we've loved Manoah. He had the kind of weird beginning where looked amazing. Then he kind of had a couple of rough starts. But for the most part, he's figured it out. He's in every start. Every time he's out there, you start him. And Lynn, come on. Lynn is a podcast favorite. But he's fantastic. I mean, I remember, and it was before you were born. It was like 6 years ago, whatever, when Lynn was just sort of this guy who, with the Cardinals, struggled with his control, a guy who you kind of are like, all right, they feel like everything's gonna come to an end pretty soon. But now he's simply put a top 5 fantasy pitcher for me anyway going forward.
Yeah, my brain is starting to shift a little bit towards 2022 value with some of these guys. I think Manoah is going to be really interesting to analyze over the offseason. I worry he might end up overdrafted, but a lot of the young guys that have
started now. Where do you right now ballpark it for me? I won't hold you to it when you do your rankings. Where do you think you will have Manoah ranked as a starter next year?
25 to 30 among starters.
Yep. I think that sounds about right. I mean, the biggest thing with him is gonna be the innings, which is just something he's got between the majors and the minors. He's got 86 right now. So, the Blue Jays are still in it, so he's going to go out to the end, I'm sure, and he'll probably end the year with 120, something like that. So if he does, 110, 120. So if he does, he'll probably, the only thing with him is he'll max out probably next year at 160, as I'm sure they'll try to protect him a little bit. That's going to be the only damper on him. But talent-wise, yeah, man, he's got the goods. I like him. So I'm with you. About 25-ish is where I feel like I'll end up.
It was a light slate on Monday, so we have some bullpen notes. Jordan Romano in that Blue Jays White Sox game tossed a scoreless ninth with 2 strikeouts for his 12th save. He is actually, since in the second half of the season, he's been dominant. So if you held on and just trusted in Jordan Romano, I don't know who would have been doing that or recommending that, but it was a winning move.
Jordan Romano is like my boy, and you and me and Mayor text, I don't know, 50 times every single day. We have our little text string going on, and one of the big things that we text about is Romano. Mayor loves to tease me. And we had this weird thing where Romano just was like, it's probably bad luck, but Montoya would always use him. Like, he hadn't gotten work in forever. So Montoya would be like, all right, it's been like 7 days since this guy got work. I'm going to use him in a non-save situation. And he'd throw like 35 pitches and he'd give up a run and he'd load the bases. And then he would be unavailable for like the next 2 days where they got save chances. Assuming that they use him regularly and Montoya maybe used him a little bit more as the way I'd like him to be used, he would be one of the best closers right now in baseball. Long term, next year, I'm not going to be that excited about him, I'm sure. But realistically, his stuff, it's real. I mean, he hits triple digits sometimes. He's got the kind of closer mentality. He's been fantastic. So yeah, you probably miss out on 3 or 4 saves because of the way they use him sometimes. But overall, as a pure closer, like, all right, right now, Brendan, Romano or Barnes rest of the season?
Definitely. I got all this stuff in my head. I was just thinking there's been some turnover. Matt Barnes, Aroldis Chapman, Craig Kimbrell, all these guys have kind of seen their stock tick down over the past month or so. So yeah, definitely Romano.
Yeah, I agree. At this point, I think that's what you have to do for sure.
This is a good point here by Wonky Penguin about Manoah and Lynn. Like, Lynn is just such an old school baseball pitcher. Just give me the ball and get out of the way.
Yeah.
So, it makes it fun, in fantasy. It makes it fun to root for guys like that.
What's funny, Tuma, is they really should be reining him in a little bit right now, right? That division's done. Like, there's no reason. I mean, you can argue if you want like home field advantage throughout the playoffs, fine. But for the most part, they need to rein him in a little bit, and he probably won't let them. The Roos is probably like, all right, Lance, I'm going to skip his size. Like, never. I'm throwing a complete cave. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Two other saves that stood out to me yesterday. David Bednar for the Pirates picked up his second save. He has the last two for Pittsburgh, and Paul Seawald in Seattle now has their past two saves. I feel like every time you and I have been on together, it's been this, Tyler Clippard, Paul Seawald conversation. So we're just mentioning this. If you need saves and they're available and you want to speculate, go ahead.
Yeah, it's August 24th, man. Like, you probably one save could be the difference. So you got to do what you got to do. Bednar, again, what's good is that, like, we know he's a closer. I picked him up after the trade deadline because I assumed he'd be the guy. In the first game after the trade deadline, I think he came in the 8th or something like that, and they never win. So I was like, what's the point? So I moved on, but he is the guy there. And again, bad teams get saves. They'll find their way into some saves, as we have now seen. So he is fine. Seawald, I feel like as soon as we're like, this is it now. We've got him. He's just, he's not going to get the next one. But, again, fight for whatever you can fight for, depending on your categories. If you are desperate for saves, go ahead.
Dan and I are similar. We both root for bad baseball teams, so we know what we're talking about.
Exactly right.
One last pitching note I had was Daniel Lynch gave up 1 run in 5 innings against the Astros, who were red hot over the weekend. So it's a little notable. The only reason I mention it is because he gets the Mariners this weekend, which is a great matchup. Lynch has been a lot better since he got recalled. If you need an under the radar streamer, I think Lynch is a good option for this weekend.
So I picked him up in a league because, again, it was a 2-start week, right? So I was like, I'm gonna risk it. But when the beat writers, Alec Lewis, tweeted this out yesterday, and it was worth mentioning. Since the Royals recalled him on July 25th, 4-1, 2.27 ERA. Opponents are batting 2.27 also against him. And just to make it clear, his opponents in those 5 starts, Blue Jays, White Sox, Yankees, and the Astros twice. Like, that's a murderer's row right there of opposing offenses for the most part, at least in terms of OPS. So, look, I rolled the dice with him. I did not feel good about it. Again, I've talked about it. Doesn't have a baseball name. Very hard for me to get on board with a guy named Daniel Lynch, who, again, sounds like my accountant. But I do think that given what he's done against these offenses, I'm going to roll him out. Like, what offense is going to go against right now where I'd be like, ooh, that's scary. He looks great. A big prospect. So, yeah, just roll with him. Go for it.
This is a bizarro world. What are we in the Matrix or something? Where Dan is getting more excited than me about
that is, yeah. Do you know what the Matrix is about, by the way?
No, all? I just kind of threw that out there. I didn't know if that was.
Did you Wikipedia it? Wikipedia. Do you know who's in the Matrix? You're done. I gotta move on. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Don't worry, go Cards. I sat Daniel Lynch for yesterday's start.
No, you go 2-start week and you throw caution to the wind. It's end of August. Come on, guys, let's go. I would have sat him if it was 1 start. I completely agree.
Some hitting standouts. Giancarlo Stanton went 2 for 3 with a homer, a double, and 3 RBIs. It was in a National League ballpark, so Luke Voit was the one who sat. We're kind of putting that to bed for now. Stanton's been
You want to talk about that every day, by the way, right? You want to be like, what's the rotation right now? What do we got? Who's going where?
Stanton has been awesome in August. Matt Olson, he hit his 32nd homer and 4th stolen base. He's been unbelievable. And then Salvador Perez, his 33rd homer for a catcher. Is there any world, any branch of the sacred timeline where you rank Salvador Perez as your number 1 catcher going into next year?
This guy sees one episode of Loki and thinks that he's some sort of guy who knows TV and movies. Okay, no. First of all, this is funny. So he is not listening, but people from the league are listening. Tuma, we're in a league. The guy who is in first, one of my closest friends. I don't think he was able to trade Salvador Perez at the deadline, who he has. It's a keeper league at a reasonable cost, because he accurately, I think, was like, oh God, like this is great. And it's a guy who I'm going to have to keep going into next year if I can't deal him, because he's going to wind up like 40 home runs. But this is not like, this is silly, and he's aging. There's no way I'll rank him ahead of Realmuto. He will be my second catcher, I mean, without a doubt. And the difference probably won't be crazy, but I'm still going with Realmuto. You?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a funny difference where for like my rest of season ranks, Salvador Perez is number one. Mm-hmm. But as of now, I kind of expect going into 22 that it'll flip back to Realmuto.
Yeah, I'm fair with that. I'd agree with that one.
We need to figure out a way to brand like August fantasy baseball players, because, we talk about Frank Schwindel and, Tristan McKenzie and stuff like that. Two others who are just, winning leagues right now are Dalton Varsho and Ty France. Dalton Varsho, the catcher outfielder for the Diamondbacks, since the All-Star break is hitting .338 with 8 homers and 3 stolen bases. Ty France, since the All-Star break, is hitting .355 and 8 homers. Are these two guys that you, if they're available, just pick them up and it's August and just ride the hot bats?
Oh, yeah, without question. And I wonder whether it's more than that, Tuma, because remember, France, we liked him a lot coming into the year. He was a sleeper. I think I said there are 2 like second basemen that everybody should draft, like one of their last pick, and it was Ty France, and I think Rojas was the other one. I can't remember. But he started off really great, kind of got a little cold, got good again, got hit in the forearm, or maybe that was the beginning, came back and was terrible for a while. But France's bat is legit. We liked it in the spring. So there is very little for me to worry about right now. Look at his underlying data. It doesn't look bad at all. So he's a guy who, not just it's August, ride him like you can do. With Varsho, Varsho was also a guy who we were really excited about. We thought like, okay, well, maybe he'll split time at catcher, then the outfield, then Carson Kelly went down. Kelly is back. So you were like, okay, Varsho's going to be gone. But look, that team does not have a lot of great options. He is playing pretty much every day. Now, he got off the series in Colorado. That was a good treatment. But what's funny, Tuma, is I don't know how many leagues I'm still like really paying attention to, probably like 3 or something like that. And I picked him up in every league but ours because I have like Omar Narvaez, and I kind of feel like that's like a guy who I just kind of leave, whatever. But I picked him up everywhere this week, and I'm planning to just ride him at catcher right now for the foreseeable future, because again, we were excited about it. This is not a random person that we were like, who is this guy? I don't know his name. All right, I'll put him in my lineup. Preseason, we were in the spring, or pretty much into him. So both these guys, absolutely, I'm rolling with for at least the foreseeable future.
Yep, I agree. Both these guys were during spring training players that we were getting excited about. That kind of, it didn't happen right away. So you drop them, but now it is time to pick them back up. I double checked this. Dalton Varsho, he's already over 20 games at catcher this season. So he will qualify at catcher next season. It could be one of those situations where, he still plays a ton of outfield. So you get that additional playing time. That'll be interesting to monitor.
Yeah, that's really what you want, right? You want a guy eligible at catcher who doesn't always play at catcher. And I mean, and the good part is, again, we've talked about this a couple of times. This breakout is happening when most people are tuned out, right? I mean, so they're going to you look at his season-long numbers. It's batting .238, man. He's got 9 homers. Why do I care about that and stuff like that? Hopefully people kind of miss him unless they listen to this show. We're going to be rocking the house with that guy coming into next year. But for the most part, this is good that the breakout is happening late, because his bat does play. It does play in the majors. I know he got off to the rough start, but it'll play in the majors. So again, he won't be a huge average guy regardless, but his numbers overall don't look that impressive. That is a good thing for fantasy managers who are paying attention right now.
We have a fun trivia question here in the chat. Go Cards, off the top of your head, last catcher to hit 40 homers. I definitely know Piazza did this. I don't know if anyone's done it more recently.
Yeah, 40 homers, huh? I don't know.
I don't think Gary Sanchez.
I know Todd Hundley did it, but that was probably before. Yeah. No, I don't know. I'm interested to know who it is. Piazza did do it, I think, once. He had exactly 40. So that was probably after Todd Huntley is my guess. But all right. I got nothing.
Yeah, me neither. I'll see if the chat doesn't even look like the chat knows exactly, but we'll see if anyone comes in with that. In the meantime, when we're brainstorming, we're going to do the Manscaped read. And if you're listening to Leading Off, that means you need to be using Manscaped for all your grooming needs. The Optimized Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer is waterproof, so you can groom in the shower and not have to worry about making a mess on the bathroom floor. It's got a new multi-function on-off switch that can engage travel lock, which is perfect for people who want to travel. And the new trimmer even allows you to customize your trim all through additional guard links with sizes 1 through 4. You can get 20% off by using the code leading off at manscaped.com. That is 20% off for using the code leading off at manscaped.com. Support your friends over here at Fantasy Pros. It does go a long way. Some downs from Monday.
Man, Tuma, your transition sometimes I'm like, oh no, did he have a stroke? Because I don't know. He looks like he's like, I got through it. I'm good. I'm going to pause for a minute. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The whole first half of the podcast is always just an anxiety-fueled.
Yeah, how are you, by the way? This is like your little therapy session. How are you doing as the host of a major podcast? I mean, Fantasy Pros is like, top of the world right now. How are you doing hosting it? Is every podcast for you like, oh my God, I'm not going to make it, deep breaths into a paper bag right before you start, and then you just go and then you just get through it, or what?
We hit end broadcast and you and I do a quick sign off, and then I just instantly hurl over to the side of my desk. And that's a morning routine at this point.
All right. I like it. Well done.
Bo Bichette went 0 for 4 on Monday night. He's hitting 224 in August, only 3 extra base hits. What are you going to do? Sit Bo Bichette? But I just wanted to point it out. I don't know if you have anything else on it.
Yeah, I drop him. I'm done. Nothing. Why are we talking about this? Forget it. No, he's fine. You leave him in your lineup.
Craig Kimbrell suffered his 4th loss of the season. He's given up 6 runs in 9 1/3 innings. He still doesn't have a save since the trade. If you were holding on and you play in a traditional roto league or a categories league that only uses saves, I'm fine dropping him.
Yes.
Well,
drop him.
Okay. Kyle Hendricks, 7 innings, 4 runs, 9 hits. It's not the worst start in the world, but it came against the Rockies in their first game away from Coors, which I was hoping for better. He has a 4.09 ERA. It hasn't, like, he's had some moments. He gets a ton of quality starts, but it hasn't been the same Kyle Hendricks this year.
Yeah, I agree. And I've always been kind of the Kyle Hendricks guy. Like, great, let people, and especially last year when, he threw a ton of innings and, looked like Ross was just going to let him go a little bit more than Madden used to. And so that was good. But it's kind of like all the underlying, data that suggested he should be a worse pitcher than he is finally all caught up to him in 1 year. Now, he's not bad. And he has this horrible thing. I think I joke about it with Carmen, who you mentioned yesterday, about like, okay, in the first inning, we know what start it's going to be, right? And he has a lot of trouble in that first inning. He gave up 3 of the 4 runs in the first inning, and then he was pretty dominant for the vast majority of the rest of the start. And then he came out for whatever it was, the 6th or the 7th, and he already had like 90 pitches, and he got hit a little bit. It's just, Matt, I still start him every time out, man, because the wins aren't going to be there. But just when you bench him, he fires off like a fantastic start against the Reds like he did last one. So I just leave him out there. He doesn't usually hurt you too badly. He did that one start where he gave up 9 runs. But for the most part, I just kind of leave him out there. And I have just lowered my expectations on him, seriously.
This is a great one. So in Spine Ticks in the chat, Javi Lopez, 43 homers.
I remember that year. That was I remember the Braves. I think that was, oh God, unless he was with the Orioles already, but I remember Javi Lopez. He was still with the Braves, right? I remember it very, very clearly. Javi. I remember all those guys because they just used to kill me. And, that back when I was your age, like 17, it was very difficult to get over these hard losses constantly to the Braves. So I'm glad I'm dead inside now.
Gonna fly through some news and notes quickly. Kenta Maeda went to the IL with forearm tightness. Disappointing season for him. Adbert Alzolay can make a rehab start this week and be back soon. Luis Gil is pitching today, Tuesday, for AAA, so he won't be back in the majors for at least another turn in the rotation. Nelson Cruz is expected to be back from the COVID-19 injured list today, Tuesday. Akil Baddoo has been reinstated from the injured list. Carlos Santana left Monday's game due to a hip flexor strain. Just check his status, but he should be day to day. And then finally, big prospect news. Edward Cabrera, Marlins pitcher, is going to make his debut on Wednesday against Josiah Gray and the Nationals. That is a thrilling game for the Too Much Tuma brand.
Yeah, so give your breakdown on it, man. I mean, I'm fully willing to admit that, you are the prospect guy. Are you picking him up? Are you waiting to see what happens? What's the deal?
I think just at this point, we with how rookies have gone, we can't, just be, oh my God, this prospect is must roster, unless Bobby Witt comes up, which I don't expect. So I don't know. If you want to stream him, go ahead. He has a control issue, and he's one of those guys that has like 2 great pitchers, but not a third pitch. So long term, he's really exciting, but I don't know. He kind of just screams like, oh, he goes 5 innings, but has 3 or 4 walks and 5 or 6 strikeouts. So I'm keeping my expectations in check, but I did just want to mention that he's getting called up. And if you do need to take a shot on upside, then go ahead.
Very good. Well, this is a really interesting time for fantasy managers, right? Because if you're in contention, probably every point matters. So every decision you make is magnified. I personally, like you, I'm certainly not willing to risk his first start, just if I could pick him up, because I need to see how it goes. But you got to be like crazy on the lookout at this point for anybody who might help you. So very good. Again, as everybody should know, follow Too Much Tuma when you want the prospect news, because he just wants a prospects podcast nonstop. That's all he wants to do.
Some home run leaderboard updates from last night, Dan. The Lord of the List, Mike Mayer, has blessed us.
Yes, sorry. I did not make a home run call yesterday. I apologize. I forgot. I had a busy day. Everyone leave me alone. Only 13, and I did say this, there were only 13 home runs hit yesterday. That's crazy. But still 11 correct home run calls. Go Cards, my dude. Mitch Haniger up to 20 overall. Derek from Texas, Ack. Okay. Giancarlo Stanton is his call. He went up to 19. Still D. Gordon Liddy and Randy in the big race at 26, Joey P at 23, Useless Panic 22, Lawnmower Man 4.4, and Wonky Penguin at 21. Wonky, come on, Wonky, let's go here. At one point, you were going to run away with this thing. Helpless in Miami, Turf Durgison, Go Cards, Pygo, and K-On SD with 20. Then everybody else kind of falls off. I'm still at 19. That is fine. Tuma, do you even make home run calls, man? What are you at, like 2?
I fell behind at the start of the year with this, and then I should have stayed with it, but I just
you're just the worst. So. You're the worst human. It's fine.
Too busy watching movies, but
yeah, God, and hurling as you get ready to podcast. I get it. Go ahead.
Some DFS talk tonight. There are some aces going. Corbin Burns against the Reds, Jack Flaherty against the Tigers, Jose Barrios against the White Sox. These guys, they're all high priced. I always look at aces to build my lineups around. Do you think it's an ace night, or do you think it's a night to, kind of move down the starting pitcher tier?
I don't love anybody who is, kind of really low priced. I like Flaherty a lot. I like what I've seen from Flaherty. I'm a little surprised that he came back from the oblique and being out for so long and just kind of hit the ground running. So against Detroit, especially on DK, where he's $1,000 cheaper than Burns, I like that. And on FanDuel, he's $1,200 cheaper. I've got no problem with Burns ever. There's no way I'm going near Barrios. I'm just not like Barrios. I love Barrios from a season-long perspective. You just kind of throw him out there, but half the time he goes out there and you just like, he doesn't have it tonight. I wouldn't mind German Marquez. I get that there's, a little Jekyll and Hyde with him, but 8,200 on DraftKings, 9,000 on FanDuel in Chicago against that lineup, which is super strikeout heavy. I was watching a game last night. I didn't know who half those guys were in that lineup. So I think that's also a guy you can go after. Other than that, that's probably all I'm going. You want to go near Hauk for a tournament play here, Tuma? No,
I think in baseball tournaments, you need your pitcher to 1, pitch deep, and 2, rack up the strikeouts. So I was going to say I'm avoiding Hauk and Madison Bumgarner. I do like him for the ratios going against the Pirates, but I just can't see the strikeout upside that you need for that. So I kind of like Marquez. If you're not going to go with Burns or Flaherty, then I would pivot to Marquez, kind of like you said.
Yeah, I definitely don't mind it. If you want to go with Luis Garcia against the Royals, I can live with it. But for the most part, if I'm paying up, I'm probably just going for Flaherty. I know it sounds weird not to go for Burns, but I'd probably take that minimal savings. It's tough to build a lineup around Burns a little bit. But if not, I have no problem with Marquez. I'm willing to roll the dice. That Chicago lineup right now is just, again, we talk about, there's like 4 or 5 lineups you can just absolutely hammer. The Cubs are one of them. So I wouldn't mind going there at all.
Some game stacks. I don't know what the Red Sox are doing on here. They're horrible, but they're going against the Twins and Griffin Jacks. The Braves against the Yankees and Andrew Heaney. The Braves have all these, kind of like mid-tier outfield, like Adam Duvall, Jorge Soler. So get those guys in against Heaney. And then the Astros against the Royals and Brady Singer. Dan, do you have any lineup builders for us?
Yeah. I mean, there's Odubel Herrera's 2,700 on FanDuel. He's 3,700 on DK. Ryan Mountcastle. Look, Mayer is the one who kind of helps us prepare all these guys. We talk them through. So if Ryan Mountcastle is playing, he is always going to be a lineup builder for Mayer. You should know that. But again, against the Angels, both him and Cedric Mullins, 3,300, 3,200 respectively on FanDuel. On DraftKings, Mountcastle's cheaper, 3,900 compared to Mullins, 4,500. Tommy La Stella against the Mets. Anybody against the Mets is always good. 2,300 on FanDuel, 3,000 on DK. And Connor Joe, who, again, even though on the road, Connor Joe just kind of gets it done there at the top of the lineup, 3,100 on FanDuel and 3,500 on DK.
Shout out to Mike Mayer. He is on Twitter at Mike Mayer. If you have DFS questions, he is, admittedly, definitely more so than me, more of a DFS guy. So
hold on. Let's throw it out there. It's football. Okay. But I don't want to, take away too much from Mayer. I don't know if he's mentioned it before. Mayer once won like a giant tournament on FanDuel in football and just sort of casually like dropped it to us. And we were like, wait, what just happened? Like one of these like tens of thousands of people tournament, and he won the whole thing. So you want DFS? Go to Mayer at Mike Mayer. Good dude, knows baseball, knows football. Obviously, you guys know him from this podcast. Check it. I mean, give him a follow because he's awesome.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for today.
No home run calls, huh? I don't get to make a home run call.
Okay. What's your home run call?
Were you hurling while I was doing that? I am going. It's very funny you mentioned my guy. I am going with Jorge Soler. Mayer mentioned him. I think it was on Friday or whatever day it was, or maybe you did. But that was a guy who I'd picked up through the weekend. Won the FantasyPros Insiders League. It's very, very prestigious in FantasyPros to win one of the leagues. Is very prestigious. I'm not even joking. Like it's like a big thing. And I'm the baseball guy, right? Like I had to be, you have these developers who are brilliant and they, all sorts of stuff.
Spreadsheets.
I've never been so excited to like anything in my life. My kids are probably watching this. Guys, I was more excited to win that league than I was in the day you were born. You can just mark that down and play that into perpetuity. But yes. And really, the reason I don't think I win it if I don't pick up Jorge Soler on Thursday. That night, Tuma, that you woke up the next day and you saw me and Mayer texting about pickups and stuff like that. Jorge Soler was the big pickup that night. Used most of my remaining fab. Had a great weekend. Took me to victory. So Soler, in honor of you. Also, you're going against Andrew Heaney, so I'll take that any day of the week. Soler is my home run call.
That was the night.
Are you making a call?
I'll take Vlad.
You don't even have it. Forget it. Put it in Discord.
That was the night after the Fantasy Fest, which is a reminder to everyone listening. It is busy times, but if you want to win your fantasy baseball league, stay with it. Don't give up just yet. We'll be here helping you out. I won't be here tomorrow. Leading off will resume. What? Dan Harris will be here.
Yes. Hold on. Very quick on that. I think tomorrow, if you are watching us live or if you're listening, whatever, and you want to watch us live, might have to be at 9:30 tomorrow because there may be some camp obligations. Last day of camp, even though Swipe tells me. But I will say we have a new co-host tomorrow, a guy you have never met or seen. You'll probably hate him, but I don't care. But Tuma and Mayer have a very busy schedule. His name is Ryan. He works for us. He's our kind of social media manager. He's a big baseball guy. He's a big football guy. He's fantastic. I wanted to get him on the podcast. I can't say the word podcast today. I got to hurl. When we have him on, he'll be here tomorrow. Me and him, it'll be great. So tune in. I will let you know in Discord what time we're going to do it. But for now, assume 9:30 a.m. Eastern time.
Yep, and you can plan on us being here all week, so leading off is not going anywhere. Lots to come. Busy times. For Dan Harris on Twitter at DanHarris80. My name is Brendan Tuma on Twitter at TooMuchTuma. This is my sign off.